Hey guys, welcome back to Snowball Investing. This is going to be the July portfolio update. As I do in all of my videos, I'll walk you through my Freetrade portfolio and also my trading 2-on-2-1. I'll walk you through how everything's performing, what I've been buying, what I've been selling, and give you my general thoughts on the market. It's been another absolutely amazing month. This is one hell of a bull market. My portfolios have been reaching an all-time high, which is obviously very exciting to see. Looking at my Freetrade ISA here, I'm very close to now £400,000 in just this ISA account, which is pretty amazing. In the past month, I'm up 8.98%, or the equivalent of 35,726. And if we have a look at the portfolio on a maximum horizon, obviously started investing back in December 2021, and just kind of buying good quality stocks ever since, and it's just been on an upward trend. And the total profit for this ISA just by itself is £312,383. Taking a quick look at the portfolio breakdown, so I'm currently 92.2% stocks and about 6% cash. And the recent activity, I've been selling Palantir. This stock just continues to run. It just doesn't stop, and it's pretty crazy. It's funny because every time I sell, it just goes up even more. So I'm very tempted not to sell, but Palantir at these sort of valuations is trading very ridiculously expensive. So I've been slowly selling Palantir as it keeps going up. So I sold 3,500 just the other day. And instead, I've been buying United Health, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Again, selling 2,000 of Palantir here and there. And again, these are small amount of shares compared to the holding I have. But it's always good to take profits when things are running. I've got a dividend from SL Green Realty, and that's a monthly dividend. I did buy Webull, but I sold out given some of the news that came out. So that was a kind of a short-term trade. Made a slight profit on it, but nothing significant. And I am holding a decent amount of cash, so 23,330. I've been holding and building up cash, hoping there's a pullback, but it just doesn't seem to come. I'm sure it will come eventually. I also have about 5,000 in some UK Treasury bills, and so total of about £28,000 in cash. I love to deploy it, but I'm just really waiting for the right opportunities. And in this sort of bull market, they're not that frequent, or they don't come around that often. Taking a look at the individual positions, let's start with Palantir, which is nearly a £250,000 position, which is pretty insane given I started off, probably had about 20 grand in this. It's gone up, what's that, nearly 13x, which I never thought I'd see in a decade, let alone a couple of years. So that's crazy to see. Obviously, the valuation of Palantir is the elephant in the room. It's very extremely expensive. For me, for it to sustain this sort of valuation, it's going to have to put out 40% growth for the continuous future. Whether they can do that, I think potentially they can, given all the hype in AI. But as you saw before, I am now taking profits off the table, so selling a couple of grand here, a couple of grand there as it goes up. I'm probably planning on selling a bit more on Monday as well. But long term, I'm very bullish on this company. I want to keep it as a major holding in my portfolio, but I'm trying to be sensible at the same time too. Another company that's also 10x is Rocket Lab, and I regret not buying more of this, as I'm sure we all do with a lot of these stocks. So that's up to 31,597. It's quite a substantial position. I was always bullish on this company, and I think given the recent tensions between Elon Musk and Trump, I can see Rocket Lab getting a bit more of that rocket market in absence of SpaceX. Again, very extremely bullish on this, maybe richly valued, you could say, but I think people can see the future potential in this and willing to pay a bit more now, and it can eventually grow into that valuation. Venture Global sits at 31,482. It's kind of recently had a bit of a pullback, but that's fine. I'm still up 27%. I'm still very bullish long term. It's probably going to be one of the biggest liquefied natural gas companies in the US. If it pulls back down to the $10 range, I'm more than happy to buy more, but I've already got a substantial position, so I'm quite happy just to let this run for the next 5, 10, 15 years. The FTSE All World Accumulating Fund, that's again recently hit all-time highs. That's sitting at 17,941. Google, they recently had their earnings out, and I thought it was a pretty solid earnings, if I'm totally honest. I mean, search is definitely not dead. GCP is doing absolutely amazing. Obviously, they've got a lot of capex spend, and that's probably why there was a slight pullback after the earnings. But, this company is heavily investing in its AI infrastructure, AI services. No concerns holding this long term. I probably should have bought a bit more, but I'm fairly happy with this position as it is. SoFi is also doing very well. That's up 173%. I'll be honest, I've not been following this too closely. I know we just pay attention to the earnings, and I expect a triple B every single time, so that's what I'm expecting. So yeah, just a hold for me for the time being. I do have a new position in this portfolio, and I touched on it before, which is United Health. So I've sold some Palantir and put it in United Health because I see UNH doubling much quicker than I see Palantir doubling, because it's really quite richly valued. I mean, the health sector in general has taken an absolute beating. UNH has had quite a lot of bad news in the past couple of months, which has obviously brought the stock price down. But for me, that's a opportunity. This company has a bunch of free cash flow, which they can spend by buying back shares and dividends, etc. So I think it's quite cheaply valued at the minute. I think short term, there's going to be volatility, sure. It pulls back after earnings, and I think that's on the 29th. I'll buy some more depending on what that news is. But for me, this is a recovery play. So 2, 3, 5 days, 5 years down the line, I expect a good return on my investment. No major updates on the next two. So Meta, Amazon, just waiting for earnings coming for those. PayPal, I mean, this is one I'm really keeping an eye on. I think it's very undervalued. It's definitely not going to be a growth machine, massive growth machine going forward, but I think it is undervalued for what it is. But very curious to see how they report earnings. If there's any major dips, I may be tempted to buy more, but we shall see. SL Green Realty, that's up 87.42%. Tesla, there's lots of news going on around this. I've got a smallish position, so I'm not keeping too close track of that news. Microsoft, again, really good quality company. Next Decade, I wish I bought more of this because that's already up 33% in just over a month. I'm really hoping for a pullback on this. I want this as a £20,000 position minimum. So let's see what the next couple of months bring for us. That will conclude the ISA update, so let's move over to the general investment account. If you haven't watched these videos before, I created this GIA during the kind of COVID crash when I maximized my ISAs and I had extra cash to deploy. So I opened up a GIA, which kind of worked quite well, but I'm not adding anything to this account at all. The value of this sits at 18,864. Past month is performing okay, up £883, mainly made up of big tech or large cap companies, Meta, Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, JP Morgan, Starbucks. All of them are performing quite well. The plan is to every year slowly sell some of this to utilize capital gains and just transfer that over to the ISA account, but no real updates to this particular account. Taking a look at my Trading 2 stocks and shares ISA, the value of this sits at 29,143. In the past month, it's up 2.9%, or the equivalent of £844. Total return is 3,243 with a rate of return of 36.2%. Compared with my Freetrade account, this is much more simplified in terms of its positions. Cash-wise, currently sitting around £3,000 in cash. Similar logic, I'm still waiting for a bit of a dip. Doesn't seem to come, maybe that's a missed opportunity, but that's the risk of having cash on the sidelines, but that's okay with me. In terms of positions, there are only 3. We've got the Vanguard All World Index Fund. That's up 9.74%, or the equivalent of £1,509. Venture Global, again, was buying this when it was down in the sort of $9, $10 range when it was an absolutely steal. That sits at 4,825, already up 35%. Google, again, buying more heavily when it was undervalued, and that's up 11% at a position of £4,325. In terms of using the cash in this account, nothing really has caught my eye. The only thing I may do is buy United Health after the earnings if it does take a bit of a dip. And if that dip's not justified, I can buy a bit more here. But I'm being a bit more strategic with this account, buying more index funds or stocks that I think are extremely undervalued, but no speculative plays in this portfolio. So that will do it for the July update. Generally speaking, I think the market has a lot of enthusiasm at the minute. I think it's in kind of greed or extreme greed fear levels, which always worries me. I like to buy my stocks when there's a lot of fear in the market, and there doesn't seem to be much of that. But it's okay because I've got lots of cash on the sideline. So if there is opportunities where things crash or there's a black swan event, I'm ready. I'll be willing to buy quality stocks at great prices. But that will do it for this month's update. I'll see you next month.